Hi, my name is Naeem, and in this video we will go through some of the things that you should know if you are considering starting your own software as a service company, or really any kind of software company, any kind of technology startup. So we'll look at some of the personality traits and some of the costs that come with doing your own company. I have had the opportunity to start two software as a service companies and take them through to successful exits, and I believe I have some good insights to share on this. Um, Note that this video is not a list of do's and don'ts when starting your own company. That's a different video, and we'll probably get into it at a later date. This video is about whether you should do your own startup, whether you have the wherewithal and the mental fortitude that you need. Because believe me, it requires a lot. Um, some of you might find this content a bit too pointed, let's say. I don't mean to offend, but I do want you to be realistic. It is going to require certain things from you, and you need them to get through it, right? So don't get mad at me, but I'll kind of highlight what I think you need, and then you decide. The first thing you need to have, in my opinion, is mental toughness. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm kind of lumping a whole bunch of personality traits into this, so let me kind of break it down for you a little bit in the form of some questions that you should ask yourself. Are you a self-motivated person, or do you need to be told what to do? Be honest. You know yourself better than anybody else. Either you have it in yourself to be self-motivated, or somebody needs to tell you what to do. Another way to think about this is, well, when you are at work, if you have time, do you start to find problems to solve all by yourself, or do you wait around and wait to be told? Okay, that'll give you the answer. If you do think you are self-motivated and you do try to find problems to solve, that is a good sign. Um, Another trait: do you have a thick skin, or are you easily offended? Let me elaborate on that a little bit as well. Can you take constructive criticism and learn from it? And actually, I'll venture to answer as well. You probably can. Most people can take constructive criticism and learn from it, and that is a very healthy thing. More importantly, for our discussion today, can you take negative, offensive feedback, criticism, and still learn from it? That is much harder to do. You can be, if you're being subject to somebody yelling at you or telling you that you did something wrong in a very negative, offensive way, do you still have the ability to kind of compartmentalize your emotions and kind of learn from what that person is trying to tell you? If yes, you can do that, that's a great thing. You don't want to let ego get in the way of success. Here's another one. Do you think a job well done is its own rewards, or do you need recognition? Now, note what I said. I didn't say do you want recognition. Everybody wants recognition, and that's perfectly fine. I asked if you need recognition. Do you always feel like you need a pat on the back for a job well done to believe that you did a good job, or are you confident enough? Are you that you can do something, and you think if you did a good job, that's good enough for you, right? Uh, do you get discouraged by repeated failures, or does it just make you want to double down and work harder? Right. So that, again, you can kind of see the kind of questions that I'm asking, and you can kind of put yourself on one side or the other of these questions if you're honest with yourself, and you'll find if you have the personality to do your own company. Okay. Um, Here's another really good one. Are you a naturally optimistic, kind of glass half full kind of person? Right? I feel like that goes a long way towards being successful. This is quite a long list, but here's the thing, okay? Number one, you're going to need these personality traits to do a successful startup. But number two, you can learn these traits. You don't have to be born with them. They don't have to be innate. It is something that you can absolutely teach yourself, coach yourself to do. To be the optimistic person, to be somebody who's enthusiastic, self-motivated. You can do these. You can teach yourself that. So don't think that this is just a list of things that if you don't meet today, oh, I cannot do a startup. I do not just need to discourage you at all. Just think of this as a list of things, list of personality traits that you should build yourself towards if you want to do your own startup. So this was mental toughness. Let's move on to the next one, which is commitment and determination. I kind of lumped both things because they kind of go together for me. You have to be 100% committed to your startup, right? So even if you, let's say you start up your company kind of part-time when it's really early stage proof of concept time, that's okay, but you should have a very clear path to when you'll be switching to working 100% full-time on your company. Okay, you cannot do a successful startup without this 100% commitment of your time and effort. Also, that way, if it fails, you know it won't be because you didn't give it your all. So you have to be committed. The next one was determination. You have to be really, really determined, like dogged determination is kind of what I'm talking about, because you're going to run into problems and setbacks all the time. And it is you who has to not only keep your own morale up, you have to keep your people's morale up, right? So you will have to be the perpetual cheerleader, no matter how you feel. You have to have the dogged determination to keep telling yourself, even on the bad days. You'll have some good days, but on the bad days, this is important. You have to keep telling yourself, this is not too bad. I can get through this. And you have to infect your people with that same enthusiasm and that can-do spirit, right? So this was my second requirement, commitment and your determination. Now let's move on to financial cost of doing a startup. Okay. Now I'm not talking about raising money for a startup. That is a separate topic, and we'll probably make a separate video on how you go about raising money for a startup. Okay. What I'm talking about is your own personal financial stability. When you do a startup, you have to have a certain amount of money saved away to meet your needs, because you will probably go through 2 periods of salary deprivation when you do a startup. The first period is when you're going to be drawing no salary at all, zero, right? You're not making any money from your company. Every dollar you have in the company is going towards growing the company. So that will be a period of time when you make no money. There will be another prolonged period of time probably when your salary that you do draw for your company is going to not be market. It's going to be a lot less, just to cover your needs, right? So those 2 buckets, when you make no money and you make very little money. And do you have enough money saved away to be able to go through those time periods? Are your needs simple enough? Do you have enough capital saved to weather this prolonged salary drought? Here's an example. So what I would consider as kind of a minimum situation is you have to have enough money saved up that you can go 6 months. You can meet your needs for 6 months without requiring anything else, right? So 6 months worth of your needs money saved away, and then another 12 months at probably a reduced salary. So maybe half of what your market salary would be, right? But hopefully your needs, you can reduce your needs down to the point where your reduced needs are enough to be met with that reduced salary period of your company's time. So in our example, let's give a concrete example. Let's say your needs are $50,000 a year, right? You could be making $100,000 a year, $150,000, $200,000 a year, it doesn't matter. But let's say you can reduce your needs down to $50,000 a year. If you can do that, then do you have 6 months set aside, $25,000 set aside just to meet your living expenses? And then after that, you do start drawing enough salary, hopefully, that you can meet your needs from that point on. And in my mind, this is the absolute bare minimum. I mean, I would be even more comfortable if you had enough saved away for just 12 months of meeting your needs without relying on your company. Okay, so this is kind of the financial cost that you have to be aware of, that you have to put aside when you go to your startup. Okay. Here's another aspect that a lot of people don't consider when they jump into doing their own company, and that is consider the social cost of doing your own startup. I mean, if you're single and don't have a lot of social needs, responsibilities, then it's very simple. Most of us probably have a significant other, have a spouse, might have a family, and that can be severely impacted by your decision to do a startup, right? Do you have a spouse or a significant other who buys into your dream and is willing to put up with how your life, and by extension their life, will change, right? That's an important question, and you need to have an honest answer to this question, have a really good read on this question, because your life is going to change, and by extension their life is going to change quite dramatically. You'll be working long hours, much longer than your regular 9-to-5 job. You will not have any time for social engagements, for social events. Okay? And even if you do, it'll be very limited. So you'll have to pick and choose what's important to you. Worse than that is when it cuts into family time. So this will cut into the time that you have available for your spouse or significant other. And if you have little kids, then it'll cut into the time that you have available for them as well. It can absolutely be done, but generally it is a lot easier if you have a supportive significant other who buys into your dream, who is willing to support you through this venture, and who can kind of work with you to juggle the time, and you can come up with creative ways in which you can spend time with your family while spending long hours at work. So this is really just a very simple list of things to be aware of when you do a startup. The personality traits that you need, the uh, the financial and social costs that you need to be aware of when you do a startup. If you could answer yes to all of these questions, let's say you have the personality to do it, let's say you have the social ability to do it, as well as the financial ability to do it, then fantastic. Doing a startup is difficult, but it can be immensely rewarding, both in terms of experience and in terms of financial success. But it does require that you go into it with the right mindset and the right attitude. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that you will consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll try to clear them up to the best of my abilities. And also know that that I'll probably be making more follow-on videos related to the mechanics of doing your own startup, the do's and don'ts of a successful startups, and there'll be more subject matter along the way. And maybe you can let me know in the comments what type of topics you'd like to see as well. Thank you very much. Have a good night.